The giant weasels are on the attack. Oh, Roger the Hammer Steiner has been given... I said it was 20,000. It's actually 21,500 for the military force at his disposal. He is gathering up. He is over in Harrington, which is a city off to the west of the land that he is attempting to reclaim. Let me flip through my notes here and show you what the hex we're trying to claim looks like. We have sent a couple of adventuring bands into, it's called the Near Scrublands. We're probably going to wind up calling it the Steinerlands, because Roger Steiner is going to reclaim Castle Weasel. And to do that, we've got the Redotomb 10 miles away. We've got a huge blast crater where some ancient cataclysm happened that turned this once lush forest, rolling pasture lands, into a blasted post-apocalyptic wasteland filled with orcs and giant toads and lots of wolves. Pretty soon, it's going to be filled with lots and lots of little villages, filled with happy little villagers making happy little babies. But we can't get there unless we have a powerful military to stave off all of the barbarians that are constantly harping on our borders. Starting small, trying to build it up. We'll see how long it takes, see how long we have fun with this. As usual, once we have discovered what there is to discover, we may be done with it. But for now, we are continuing the adventure, the saga of the Wolflands, by looking at the military. And just real quick, this is what we did in our last episode. I've got 20 Lightfoot. Now, these guys are actually... they're more like scouts. They're more like Captain Faramir and his rangers hunting oliphants out to the west of the White City. 20 of those guys. I'm not paying them as Lightfoot. I'm paying them as shortbowmen, but they have a different skill set. They're rangers, okay? Not rangers in the D&D sense. They just rangers in the sense that they are one who ranges. They've got swords, they've got short bows, so they can do a little bit of everything. Ambushers and skirmishers. I have 20 heavy foot. These are my home guard. They have chainmail and swords and spears, and then I also have a unit of 20 archers. Each of these 2 decades, by the way, 2 squads or decades, whatever you want to call them, are commanded by a lieutenant. So I have 1, 2, 3 lieutenants that allows me to manage these 60 boys. And then I have a unit of 20 medium horsemen. 10 of these guys will be tasked with protecting our caravans. Our supplies, as I said, face a relatively easy 5-day journey and then a rough 2 days. So the last outpost is about 2 days away. We can ferry supplies by Long Lake. This is what the general region looks like. Corvusburg is at the tail end of this safe highway patrolled by the forces of Harrington, and then you get across the lake, and this is where our Castle Weasel lies. The question is, these guys are protecting the works, the repairs for Castle Weasel. Well, what does that look like? What am I going to need to repair Castle Weasel? And at this point, let me just show you. This is the map of the ruins of Castle Weasel that we're trying to repair. You can see that it is a tumble-down ruin. It is a great ruined pile, but not for long. We're going to fix it up. In our next video, we'll look at what it means to build a castle and why we want to reclaim a ruins rather than start from scratch. Spoiler alert, we're cheap bastards and we want to stretch our coin as far as it can go. So this table right here is a cheat sheet reminding me of where I'm spending my money to fix up the castle. And I guess the first thing to do, we want to look a little bit ahead. And I mean that both temporally, looking ahead in time, and looking ahead in the book on page 107. We've all seen this nice little table of what the construction costs are and how long it takes to build a castle. It takes a year plus 2 to 8 months. That's a long time. Most campaigns die within 6 sessions. How am I going to get through 20 months of game time? Well, I'm not. I'm probably going to get through 10, which is where cutting my construction costs in half by reclaiming a ruin comes into play. But we'll talk more about that later. First, I need to hire some guys. To support my troops. I'm going to need an armorer and a blacksmith. I'm going to need to hire some supply men. I need construction workers. I need all of that. And it's a little easier to put this together logistically than you might think. First thing to be aware of is, let's just look at the support that we've got here. So we're not going to hire an alchemist just yet, but for armorer, we are going to need, well, let's take a look at the description. This is part of why I love using the 10-man decade for both things like armor and blacksmith. Here we go, armor. This occupation, 1 armor is required for every 40 soldiers or fraction thereof, which I assume includes the horses as well. The same rule applies for the blacksmith, which is, of course, on the next page. There must be 1 blacksmith can care for the needs of up to 40 men or horses. Another smith is required for each additional 160 or fraction thereof. Oh, that's nice. So the second one actually is a force multiplier. That might change how I do this. It's actually not. What I'm going to do is I'm going to assume that I've got a lot of construction going on, so I'm going to hire 3 blacksmiths. Actually, I'm going to hire 5 of them. Yeah, I'm going to hire 5. I got a lot going on, man. So 5 blacksmiths is going to set me back. And the other thing is, at 30 apiece, that's only going to set me back. You know what? Let's do this. It's 1 for 40 plus 160 for each additional. So I'm going to hire 4 of those guys, and that's going to set me back 120 gold pieces a month. And as I explained in my last video, we're going to get the broad strokes right first, and then we may wind up cheating a little bit up on most of these costs so that when we have a cost where we want to cheat down, we can do that without a guilty conscience, right? So the armorer, we need 1 for 40. And remember, I've got a force of 85 men. There's 80 troops. That includes 8 sergeants. I've got 4 lieutenants. Do I have 4 lieutenants? Yeah, 4 lieutenants. And then I have a captain of the Wolflands. So that's 85 altogether. Technically, maybe you could argue I only need 2 armorers. I'm going to buy 3 anyway, and the reason for that is that armorers have a special thing going on. And that is that each one has a skill level. Oh, no, armorers is just like standard, right? So I got 3 of those guys, I'm covered. Or fraction thereof. Even though that last guy is only dealing with 5, he's the officer's armorer, I guess you could argue. So that's 300 a month for him. The weapon maker is where I'm going to go ahead and order 3 of those guys up. I'm going to hire 3 weapon makers because weapon makers are a little bit different. You have to get all the way past the sage. Here, let me show you. There are 3 different kinds. See this list right here? I'm going to hire 1 bowyer, 1 swordsmith, and 1 weaponer general. Okay, so 1 of each of those sets me back 300 gold pieces. So for my military guys and, dedicating a little bit of time to the construction support, that's going to set me back 740 gold pieces. It's 300 for the armor, 300 for the weapon makers, and then another 120 for the blacksmiths. Oh, that's only 720. All right, 720 gold pieces. Love it. Now, I need to keep these guys well fed. Get the barbarian in another corner quick. Yeah, hey, look at this guy. He's my favorite guy in the whole book. My favorite illustration. I wonder why I find this guy so relatable. So flipping back over here, now this is where the general laborers come in, right? So what I'm going to do, now bearers and porters cost 1 gold piece per month. Pack handlers cost 1.5 gold pieces per month. Remember, it's 1 to 20 is the ratio there. And then we have things like leather workers, carpenters are 2 gold a month. So let's just take this in order. I want to keep my boys supplied. So we're going to have to look at the wagons and all that stuff. But just while I've got this up, let's do supply later. Let's figure out how many guys we have to supply yet. I'm going to get 10 carpenters, right? That's 20 gold pieces per month, right? Plus 10% of the items fashioned by them. Now, I'm assuming that these carpenters, if I buy 20 of them, they're split about 50-50. Some of these guys are woodcutters, some of these guys are plank makers, and some of them are detailed carpenters. I am too important to worry about the exact ratios. I'm going to let my lackeys deal with that. My scribe, I should say. He's going to hire the right mix for me. I'm not interested. We're trying to get as detailed as is interesting without losing ourselves in that detail. Trying to keep an eye on the forest, not necessarily the trees. The same thing is true of the masons. So masons are a little more expensive. I could drop my little ruler down to show you how much those cost. The masons cost 3 gold pieces instead of just the 2. All right, so I get 10 of those guys. And then I'm going to get 10 of these lackeys. Now, the laborers are 1 gold piece, and then the lackeys are just general valets. 50 silver pieces? All right, whatever. I've got laborers. I guess valets are a little more. That's 2.5 gold pieces per month. I'm paying them 1.5 for general labor. I'm going to get 20 of those. So I've got my 10 carpenters with 10 carpenters assistants, 10 masons, 10 masons assistants. And then I'm going to go ahead and hire 2 more tailors just to help keep everybody patched up, keep them working. They don't have to darn their own socks. Gonna get a scribe. He's gonna help keep my finances in order. And scribes are over here back on the expert hirelings. We've moved away from the minor ones, and scribes are up here on this table here, as is the sage. So my scribe is gonna be 15 a month, and then there he is, right there at 15. And then I have to hire an architect. And the architect is a little bit special because the architect he's actually, where is he at? Engineer architect, there he is, 100 gold pieces a month. But every time I spend money on my castle for everything I buy, I got to pay this guy 10% of that cost. So if I buy, I don't know, like a gatehouse for 2,000 gold pieces, I got to pay this guy another 200 to draw up the plans. He is located on site. He is helping me with all of the engineering needs and the setting I need for all my stuff. Put all of that together, and what you find is that your monthly cost for these guys is going to be 201 gold. Oh, you know what? 201 gold for the month. I'm going to knock off the 1. This is one of those cases I round down. But that's going to lead me with about 1,100 gold pieces per month, plus 10% of the cost of the weapons. The weapon maker has that same thing, and the architect. Now we can look at supply. And for supply, I am going to, again, keep things a nice round number. I figure that if I get 5 wagons, and we'll look at the cost of the actual equipment in a little bit, I'm going to need 10 teamsters. I want 2 guys per. Or maybe what I do is I order 1 teamster for each wagon and 1 pack handler for each wagon, or 1 bearer porter for each wagon. There's a couple of different ways you can interpret this. In addition to the wagons, I'm going to go ahead and hire 5. I'm going to get 10 mules, basically. So that's going to give me, that's quite a bit. At 2 to 1, that's going to give me 10 pack handlers, 10 teamsters. Right? Again, this is a pretty reasonable ratio. If you were my DM, tell me down in the comments, do you think that buying 5 wagons, now remember wagons are 150 apiece, so that's going to be 750. The draft horses are, and with the harness, right? So it's 300 for the horses, and then, well, what is it? It's 31. Pack horses are 30 a pop. And then for the harness, that's another 10. So there's 310. And then 200 for 10 mules, 1,300 gold to set that up. And then if I'm going to have 20 men handling these things, whether it's pack handlers or teamsters, 1 per 2 mules may be a little high. Whatever, it's fine. I've got 20 horses and I've got 20 pack animals I got to deal with. I don't even care whether these are mules, donkeys, or light horse, right? It doesn't matter to me. All I need to know is that I've got 5 wagons and 10 pack animals, and how much is it going to cost me to set it up? 1,300. How much is it going to cost me per month? 65 for the guys that are running that. So that is essentially what my support staff looks like. And if you put all of that together, I can show you my little cheat sheet. What you are going to find, starting at the top, we've got our weapon, our armor, weapon maker, and 4 blacksmiths. That's going to be 720. With all of my supply wagons, it's going to be 65 a month, plus the 1,300 setup. And then the construction crew is going to be an additional 201. So if you add these 3 together, you get, well, that's about 900, and then about, 20 plus 65 plus 1. We'll call it 100. Nice 1,000 gold pieces a month. So for 7,300 gold pieces, it's going to be 1,000 gold a month in salary. So I want to remember that for when we get past that first 6 months. But that's 7,300 gold pieces. My military, remember, set up for the first 6 months was somewhere around 21, 22,000. I'm just going to go ahead and call it a nice round 22.7. That means my setup costs are 30,000 gold pieces. How cool is it that we come that close? That leaves me 20,000 gold pieces left over for construction, which we'll talk about in the next video. How are we going to keep ourselves safe? How are we going to defend the ruined keep? How are we going to set up camp and keep everybody safe for that first month while we get things settled down, get things understood, and then at the end of that first month, we're going to call it February. Right? We're doing this in 1-to-1 time, so rolling the calendar into February, we can start exploring the hex. We can start sending our Faramir, the lieutenant of the Weasel Town, the Steinerlands, out to explore and continue mapping this. But before we leave this 5-mile hex, we're going to have to clear, as is the case with our hex clearing rules from this book, we need to clear the immediate environs. While you are situated within a 3-mile by 3-mile area, sky's the limit. You've got no protection. We will have a crow's nest. We'll have a lookout up on top of the castle, so we'll see threats coming from a mile away, but we want to see threats from 3 miles away because that's what our initial clearing looks like. We talked about that 2 episodes ago. We'll talk about it again in the next episode, and as we go through our construction costs, our construction time, and what the actual adventure looks like. I know we haven't rolled any dice yet. We're just doing kind of a low-key order of battle, getting our character ready. Although our character is no longer one guy, our character is, how many guys is this all together? It's 85 for the military, plus another 74 for the support staff, right? We got our 10 heavy guys with armor, weaponsmith, blacksmith, clanging the forges, and then we've got 20 guys on the supply, and we've got another 44, so that's 44, 60, yeah, 75 guys. So we are up to over 150 guys. I've got 160 people under my protection. 160 people. That's my character. Not concerned with hit points of any of those individuals unless I am. And the beauty of this style of gaming is that if I need to zoom down to find out, hey, what happens to this squad that I sent out? What did they encounter? If I want to run a little tabletop battle with my sergeant and 9 light foot, my 9 scouts, against 12 orcs, I can do that and figure it out. Or I can generate a nice little combat results table to just grab a couple of dice and roll them and say, the higher I roll, the better it goes for me. I rolled snake eyes, it's a TPK. So there's lots of different ways that we can kind of expand on this game and play it as a miniature war game, or just leave it as the paper and pencil, which I'm doing because life is busy right now. You know how it is. Maybe when things settle down, we can do things a little more bigger, a little more dramatic, do a little live streams. That's what I'm hoping for. Yeah, pray for simplicity. A simple life is a wonderful life. A simple life is a godly life. Maybe I'll have more time to volunteer. Did a lot of that over the Christmas season. Got to try to do that more throughout the course of the year. Trying to make the world a better place. One video, one volunteer effort at a time. I hope you're doing the same because together, everyone achieves more. I'm praying for you.